Advanced pushing screen. Sweet. Hey guys. Hey, all right. We are good. We are working in live. So I'm gonna get everything going. Obviously you can do what you want with your cell phones. You're at home. This is a Facebook Live talk. It is not a in-office talk. This is we've been doing a couple of these. Yeah, I'm gonna jump right in. So tonight we're talking about thyroid dysfunction. I'm really excited. I know a lot of people are looking for a better path forward when it comes to supporting their thyroid. And hopefully I'm gonna give you some great information that will be able to help change your life. That's a goal for tonight. So I've got a screen in front of us. You can definitely see that. And let's see here. Virtual background. Awesome, got it. Okay, good. So we are good. All right. So give you guys a little bit of background on myself. Dr. Green, Dr. Akiba Green. I've got a clinic in the Charlotte, North Carolina region. It's in a town called Cornelius. Lake Norman Health and Wellness has been my office for 16 years. We recently rebranded as Lake Norman Integrative Wellness. You're going to see us using both terms. They are interchangeable at this point as we make the transition over to Lake Norman Integrative Wellness. But I am a doctor of natural medicine. I am fellowship trained in integrative cancer therapy. That is through an organization associated with the University of South Florida Medical School. I am board certified in integrative and anti-aging medicine. I am a certified functional medicine practitioner. I am certified in functional neurology through the American Functional Neurology Institute. I'm enrolled in Brain MD, Brain Health University, which is Dr. Daniel Amen's clinical functional neurology program for physicians. And I've studied integrative cancer treatments under Dr. Kevin Connors, Dr. Mark Rosenberg, and many others. I have a unique approach to treating our patients who have thyroid disease, who have other conditions. We see a large percentage of patients who have autoimmune diseases, a large percentage of patients who have disorders associating with thyroid, neuropathy, fibromyalgia, and then we see a number of patients who treat with us for integrative cancer work, and they're looking for an alternative approach to treat their cancer. So my goal tonight for everybody, first and foremost, is to reinvent your life. We're here. We're going to add maximum positive impact to every single one of you. I hope you enjoyed the talk. I'm excited, but you've got a thyroid problem. You're looking for a solution. So I have to give you an exit strategy. How can you improve your health today? And it's going to involve lifestyle changes. We're going to talk about a bunch of things, but really we're talking about this small little gland called the thyroid. And, it's about 2.5 centimeters in total diameter, right in the middle of our throat. And it is incredibly powerful despite how small it is. So if we talk about symptoms, fatigue, number one symptom you're going to see, it's going to be fatigue. You're going to see symptoms of weight gain, even with a low-calorie diet. You're going to see morning headaches. They wear off as the day goes on. You're going to see depression, anxiety, brain fog. You're going to see constipation. Gosh, imagine waiting as your family bangs on the door, increasing stress levels that you're dealing with. How about stomach aches, gas, bloating, reflux? Chronic digestive problems can often be caused by thyroid dysfunction, but a lot of times we see it leads to low stomach acid, and that can lead to these symptoms. Cold weather sensitivity, overly sensitive to cold weather. Think about a condition called Raynaud's, poor circulation or numbness in the hands and feet. You may require excessive amounts of sleep to function properly. Itchy, dry skin, dry, brittle hair or hair loss, especially a loss of the lateral third of your eyebrow. That's very classic for thyroid disease, even with guys as well. All right, so every cell in your body has receptors for your thyroid. The thyroid is so important. It is one of the most important, really, glands, organs, controllers in the body. And you know what happens? You guys go to your doctor. They say you have a thyroid problem. You're diagnosed. You're put on medication. And some of you feel better, but a lot of you don't. And you go back to your doctor and you say, I still have depression. I still have weight issues. I still have fatigue. I still have all these symptoms. And your doctor says your labs are fine. And they don't give you the answers that you're looking for. Well, I know I am sick and tired of seeing patient after patient after patient suffering for thyroid problems and not getting the right care because their doctor doesn't know how to properly manage them. What I know right now, the doctors that many of you are currently seeing, they don't know what they're doing. Listen, they are fabulous when it comes to emergency care. They are incredible when it comes to saving our lives. But when it comes to chronic health problems, when it comes to helping manage, especially our thyroid, what we have found, what we see, what the industry sees, what the country sees, is that our thyroid is not getting properly managed by these physicians who are designed to manage it. And, gosh, how long have you guys had your thyroid problem? I mean, some of you have had so many problems for, gosh, so long. And that's part of the reason why we know that they're not doing what they should be doing, because you're still living with this. If you had resolution, if you had your problems fixed, gosh, you wouldn't still be suffering this many years later. So why doesn't your endocrinologist know how to treat you? I mean, that's a great question. Well, the overwhelming majority of physicians don't read enough medical journals. There's simply no time in our modern insurance mandated world. They rely on what they learned in school 15, 20, even 30 years ago. And quite simply, a lot of it is outdated information. Many of them don't know what they're doing. They'll never know what they're doing. And, that kind of leads us to the fact of, well, what are we dealing with? So what you need to know, and if you want to write this down at your house, this is also going to be recorded on Facebook Live. We're all suffering. Every single one of you who has a thyroid problem is all suffering from what we call a web of physiological dysfunction. None of you has just one problem. It's an impossibility. That's not how our body works. So when I talk about a web of physiological dysfunction, what I'm talking about is this. This is you. So every single one of you, when you come in and you say, I have a thyroid problem, you have blood sugar imbalances, you have adrenal organ imbalances, you have gastrointestinal problems, you have different issues with your thyroid. It's not as simple as just your TSH is up or low. Hormone imbalances, liver dysfunction, immune system imbalances, brain dysfunction. All of these things are going on at once, creating the symptoms that you're dealing with. Now, it looks confusing, and it can be, and many doctors give up. They pass the buck to the next specialist. So if we don't address specific problems in your web, you're never going to fix your problem. So every single one of you all have brain problems. You all have nerve problems. You all have thyroid issues. That's why you're here. You all have gut problems. You all have short-term memory problems. You all have metabolic problems. All of this is going on. You all have these problems at the same time. And they just don't make a pill to fix these kinds of problems. So we're going to talk about the web of physiological dysfunction. I'm going to give you guys pointers, things that you can do to talk about your own web. And, really, let's talk though a little bit about what something I already mentioned. I want to talk a little bit about the brain, okay? So every single one of you has a brain problem. And we know that because your thyroid starts in your brain. There's a part of the brain called the frontal lobe. If you've ever noticed that you had personality changes occurring, depression, anxiety, irritability, other changes, it's going to be because your frontal lobe is not firing the way it's supposed to. The hippocampus is a small little part of your brain where you store memory. If you have brain problems, if you have memory problems, you have a problem here. The parietal lobe is where all sensory input fires into your brain. If it starts a short circuit, you have pain, numbness, or tingling throughout your body, and that can lead to peripheral nerve or chronic pain problems. Many of you with thyroid disease have chronic pain. Well, how many pills are there to fix your parietal lobe? If somebody has short-term memory loss, how many pills are there to fix the short-term memory loss? None. Because you can't just fix a symptom and the problem goes away. So frankly, when we look at this, we look at your brain, and your brain, it gets input from all over the body. It's just big sponge, and it has to function and get input and then control everything. And with every single one of you, if your brain is malfunctioning, it's going to affect every part of your anatomy. Nerves go to your organs. Nerves go to your extremities. Nerves go to your spine. Gosh, every single one of you has these imbalances in how your nerves fire. And that's going to lead to imbalances in how your thyroid's communicating and how other organs are working. So we have to look at your brain first and foremost. If we don't look at your brain, then nothing else is going to work properly. But we also have to sit back and say, hey, wait a minute. How many of you were diagnosed with a thyroid problem and were told what was wrong? How many of you were told, hey, this is how your thyroid physiology works. This is what's going on. These are all the lab tests. We're going to talk about 9 lab tests today for your thyroid alone. Well, for many of you, you weren't really told how thyroid function really works. So we have to understand how you got here. We have to understand what's going on with your thyroid. And that means we got to look at the big picture. So we know that everything starts in the brain. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. So you talk about way up top here, you've got your brain, sends a signal called TRH that goes to the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland makes a signal called TSH. By the way, the pituitary gland also affects other organs like your testes and ovaries. It also affects your adrenals. It also impacts growth hormone repair in your body, brain function. So the pituitary gland does a whole lot. Well, we're just talking about one area. We're just talking about the thyroid. And so the pituitary gland is going to tell your thyroid to make 2 hormones. It's going to tell it to make T4 and T3. We make 93% of the hormone as T4. But T4 is not the hormone we use. It's not the active hormone. So we have to convert T4 into T3 if we're going to use it. And you know, that doesn't take place in the thyroid gland. So that actually takes place in your liver, your gut, and other tissues. In fact, the liver, 60% of that conversion is in the liver. That's the most important area that we're going to look for. Once you convert T4 into T3, your body then has to take that free T3 and bring it into the cells. We see a lot of people who have healthy, normal free T3 levels, healthy, normal free T4 levels, but they still feel hypothyroid because they have a cell receptor problem. The cells themselves are not using the hormone the way they should be. Well, why is that happening? Why are we seeing these issues? The reality is we're going to see these issues for a number of different symptoms. Those symptoms, gosh, they're going to be rather significant for many of us. If we talk about this, I'm going to go on just a few of these with you. First and foremost, we're going to talk about your gut, your colon, okay? If you don't have imbalances in impacting the gastrointestinal tract, well, you probably do. A lot of you probably do. And your gastrointestinal tract is going to impact, gosh, a whole lot of different symptoms you're dealing with. And, you know, if you don't fix that, so let's show you this. Let's bust this up here. Let me see if I can share this with you. Share. Basic. All right, so gastrointestinal tract, first things first. If you don't have imbalances, if you don't know if you have imbalances in the gastrointestinal tract, if you're not sure that you have problems there, then we have to look at symptoms, right? So we know that 20% of T4 converts to T3 in the gastrointestinal tract. We know that 90% of your food is assimilated in the gastrointestinal tract, but we know that most of your immune system is located here. It's in the gut. And you know, even somebody who has no GI symptoms, good bowel movements, no reflux, no heartburn, healthy, but they still have a thyroid problem, they probably have a problem in the gastrointestinal tract. So we look at the gut-brain connection, and even the father of medicine, Hippocrates, said, look to the gut, there you find the origin of almost all human illness. So poor gut function is almost always due to these 5 things, all right? Abnormal levels of healthy bacteria. You've all heard of a probiotic. We all take one, or we should take one. We know that it helps our stomach because we need good, healthy bacteria. We need that healthy gut flora to help our immune system, to help produce, gosh, up to 30% of our daily energy. It's essential that we get that good nutrition into our gut through healthy bacteria. You have probably heard of stomach reflux or acid reflux, but you probably may not realize that acid reflux is really not acid reflux, it's food reflux, it's gastric reflux. Most people don't have too much acid, they have too little acid. So if you have too little acid, then you can't digest your food in the stomach. That can lead to malabsorption, and all sorts of problems can develop out of that. How about leaky gut syndrome? So you can have imbalances that specifically lead to autoimmune disease. Now, leaky gut syndrome, it's a prerequisite to autoimmune disease. It's something that takes place in the small intestine, and literally your intestinal lining breaks down and toxins get out of your small intestine. come into contact with your immune system and create inflammation, autoimmunity, and other disorders. And, a lot of those leaky gut issues end up leading to food sensitivity issues. We also want to touch on gut infections. So don't keep that, don't forget gut infections. We know that Lyme disease is something we see a fair amount of in our clinic. We know that Epstein-Barr virus is something we see a fair amount of. We know parasites, mold, all sorts of chronic infections and stealth infections, infections that are missed by typical diseases assessments or typical wellness checks or evaluations. They're just sitting there. They're affecting us. Those are so important that we identify them and we eliminate them in order for your body to actually get healed. So we do know that leaky gut is a prerequisite to autoimmune disease. I do want to touch on food sensitivities a little bit. I think that's a really important piece. Let me see if I can pull up some information for us specifically that I want to share with you all on food sensitivities. Let's see here. I think I can pull it up for you. Hang tight 1 second here. I may not actually have the slides. I thought I had the slides to go over with you, but I may actually not have them for you here. So I may just, I'll just share with you. Again, not a big deal. I'll just share with you. But what we're looking at with these food sensitivities, gosh, I mean, gluten is the biggest issue. And I mean, I've talked to so many patients. I've talked to so many of you about why gluten is an issue, why people have problems with eating gluten or other foods. And what happens and what we don't realize is that what we eat now, the food that we eat now is not the food that we ate years ago. It's not. Now with gluten specifically, there are potential issues with a chemical called Roundup. Glyphosate is the actual chemical name, and it has changed the way wheat actually gets into our body. And so we know that that's a potential concern. We know that that's an issue that we deal with. We also know very specifically that food sensitivities are not the same thing as a food allergy. So people can have a food allergy, which can lead to a reaction in the immune system, and that reaction can actually lead to instantaneous responses. I mean, when you think about instantaneous responses, you're going to think about, gosh, life-threatening type illnesses, right? And when we see that, those life-threatening illnesses, oh, there we go. I think I can get you guys just so you can share along with me what I'm going over with you, and it'll make your life easier. But we think about asthma, think about shock, think about those types of problems. Now, what about a food reaction? It's not severe, but with some symptoms. So we know that a food reaction, like upset stomach or coffee jitters, gastritis, that can be really as important. There's also the concept of a food sensitivity. This is a lot of what I talk about. So it may not have an immune reaction to it. It may be silent. In fact, in the presence of leaky gut, which basically allows those food particles to be exposed to the gut's immune system, that leads to inflammation. In the presence of that, gosh, gluten has to be something that we have to address. And we know that, gluten, gosh, in 1971, there were 71 studies listed in PubMed. In 2012, there were almost 10,000. In 2018, if you do a search, I'm getting, a lot more than that even. And the key thing is, we know the gluten-free industry is billions and billions of dollars in sales. We see gluten-frees everywhere. 5 years ago, nobody talked about gluten-free. Now people understand and see that wheat plays a different role in our diets than it used to. But this is the key thing. This is the important part of it. Most people who have a gluten problem, in fact, we can even talk about people who have celiac. So celiac disease, right? That's the extreme form of gluten sensitivity. It's actually an autoimmune disease. It leads to damage in the small intestine. It leads to malabsorption. 87% of celiacs have absolutely no symptoms. So they're positive for celiac, but they have no GI symptoms. Only 13% are symptomatic. That is incredibly important as a number because it points towards the severity of what we're dealing with. Now, with thyroid, here's why you care. Here's why the thyroid patient cares about gluten. Because there's a direct link between gluten sensitivity and autoimmune disease. And more importantly, in 1998, the Journal of Endocrine and Metabolic Disorders did a study, and they showed that 90% of hypothyroidism, 90% of low thyroid function was the result of autoimmune causes. If you're autoimmune, so if you have hypothyroidism, autoimmunity, your body is attacking itself, and that's why you're hypothyroid. So we know that. Now, number two, there's that link between Hashimoto's and thyroid. So we know that patients with symptomless celiac disease needed 49% more T4 to fix TSH compared to non-celiacs. We know that gluten overstimulates the immune system. There's no real difference between celiac disease and gluten sensitivity. It's still an immune reaction. And I just can't emphasize this enough. You know, a gluten-free diet is must for any autoimmune disease. And again, there's a genetic link between Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune thyroid disease, which is 90% of your thyroid problem. There's a genetic link between Hashimoto's and celiac or gluten sensitivity. So we have to test you for food sensitivities. That has to be done. Now, number two, you may have had a celiac test that came back negative. The testing is not that good traditionally. And most labs only test two aspects of gluten, called alpha-gliadin and tissue transplantaminase antibodies. But there's a whole lot more to gluten than that. There's a whole lot more, many other parts that associates with gluten itself. So there is testing that we use, Cyrix Laboratories we use. We also use a lab called Vibrant America, and they look at a really specific aspect. It's over 13 parts of the immune response to wheat. And it also helps confirm if you have autoimmune disease and where it's from. I have a panel that looks at 96 foods. So dairy, and breaks down cow versus goat versus sheep. We look at rye, barley, oats, corn, rice, potato. We look at vegetables. We look at fruit. We look at avocado, coconut, tomatoes, nuts, beans, seeds, coffee, yeast, meat, fish, shellfish. It's an awesome panel. It's a food sensitivity test, and it really helps us determine if you're having an issue with gluten or other foods. And if you are, you have to eliminate these foods out of your diet. If you don't eliminate them, then it's part of the problem leading to your autoimmune disease, leading to your breakdown. So we touched on a little bit of infections earlier. So we know bacteria, we see that a lot, Klebsiella, H. pylori. We know parasites, if you eat sushi, if you go swimming in the lakes, if you travel a lot. We know yeast and fungus, and I do see, like I said, a lot of Lyme in my clinic. And Lyme isn't just the deer tick. It's actually many different bacterial species. They're often called Lyme co-infections. There's specific detailed assessments that can be done, and it's much more involved. And I will tell you, number one, if you have Lyme disease and you are just given doxycycline or antibiotics, they just won't kill the bacteria. The bacteria is going to hide, and it's not going to be affected by those bacteria long term. You need more effective treatments. You have to be able to eliminate those infections long term. All right, let's talk about a few other things that we know can contribute to your thyroid disease. How about the adrenal gland? We know the adrenal gland is definitely an important part. It sits on the top of your kidneys. It releases cortisol and other hormones in response to stress. Sets your sleep cycle. It helps blood sugar. It affects other hormones. And we also know that your brain gets affected when cortisol is abnormal. Mostly the hippocampus, which is responsible for short-term memory. We talked about that earlier. And there's a direct correlation between your adrenals and your brain function because cortisol destroys your brain when it's abnormal. So it's interesting. If you talk about these symptoms, hair loss, fatigue, sleep problems, hot flashes, well, those could be thyroid symptoms. They could be menopausal symptoms. They could be adrenal symptoms. So we have to assess all three areas to figure out what symptoms you're dealing with. All right, hormones have to be looked at. Your male hormones like andropause, testosterone imbalances, prostate disease, infertility issues in females, menopause in females, menstrual cycle problems in females. We have to assess all of those. Why hormone problems? Blood sugar involvement, adrenal involvement, thyroid involvement, brain. How about the HP axis? One hormone affects the other. All these imbalances can affect it. And you have to be able to assess these hormones in order to get it fixed. How about, there's something called the HP axis. So the HP axis, the hypothalamus pituitary axis, controls all your hormones. They're all controlled at one time, and a problem with one is going to lead to a problem with the rest. All right, blood sugar. So unstable blood sugar can definitely contribute to thyroid disease. Optimal functioning blood sugar is 85 to 99, but I don't like that number. I'm going to cross that out, okay? I'm going to say, let's go down. Let's go 75 to 85, okay? That's a much better number. And you want healthy blood sugar levels. If you've never had a test called the hemoglobin A1C, that test is the best test that exists for diabetes, all right? It's the main test that's out there. Get that blood sugar test done. You want a number below 5.3. If you don't see those numbers there, then you have a blood sugar problem. It's attacking your nerves, it's attacking your brain, it's attacking your thyroid. You could have an anemia. Now, anemia means red blood cell disorder. It doesn't mean iron. It could. There are vitamin or mineral deficiencies that can lead to anemia, like B12 and folic acid. It can be caused by infections in the gut. It can be caused by blood loss, whether from menstruation, colon or stomach problems, or trauma. It can also be caused by autoimmunity. There's a disease called pernicious anemia. Chronic infections, malignancy, pathology can all cause red blood cell dysfunction. So we have to see if you have anemia, and we have to fix the underlying causes in order to correct it so your body can get those red blood cells transported and get those nutrients where they need to go in your body. All these different pieces of the puzzle, right? Liver dysfunction, one of the most important organs of our body. If you don't have a healthy liver and gallbladder, then your thyroid is going to be affected. How about your immune system? Let's touch on that for a brief second, okay? See if I can put a whiteboard up here for y'all. New share. Yep, I can. Perfect. All right, you guys should be able to see this whiteboard. I hope. You have TH1. You have TH2. Each side of the immune system is going to have a kind of teeter-totter. And you need to make sure that you know where your immune system is going. If you get sick and you have a shift, then you're going to have one side of the immune system pushed. If that goes up, that goes down. And your teeter-totter is going to look like this. Your seesaw is going to look like that. And you're going to be in trouble. Now, if this goes high, this goes low, it's going to look like that. You're going to be in trouble. Most Hashimoto's patients are TH1 dominant. That means your soldiers are attacking you. So we need to calm down your immune system. Taking levothyroxine does not calm down your immune system. There are nutrients that we can use that accomplish that. There are tools that we can use that help to improve how your immune system is functioning. We have to use those tools to heal your body. If we don't do that, then you're not going to get better. All right, let's go back in. Good. All right. So your web of physiological dysfunction is rather complex. I mean, heck, there's emotional issues. We can't forget about emotional issues. We can't forget about problems with cellular dysfunction. Genetics are an issue that we can look at. So genetics also play a role. All of this plays huge roles in your health. And you know, it's interesting because you may have gone to the doctor and you may have gotten labs done and they may have said, oh, your labs were normal. They may have said there's nothing wrong with you. If there's nothing wrong with you, why do you have thyroid disease? Why do you have these other health problems? Why do you feel so lousy? Well, the reason is they're not running the right tests, or they use traditional lab ranges and they're too broad. So they don't really know what's wrong with you. In fact, you know, I use LabCorp to do a lot of my labs. I've used Quest, I've used Solstice, I've used Carolina's Healthcare locally. I've sent patients all over the world to get labs done. And they all are running the same test, but they're going to get different results. And that's because lab ranges are inaccurate. It's a bell curve, and it's based on unhealthy people. So functional lab values are going to be used in my clinic. These are published values, and what they basically mean, so let's say you're lab high. So you're lab high, right? When you're lab high, then there's a problem. When you're lab low, there's a problem. Well, TSH is an example we'll get to in a second. But you don't want to be lab high or lab low. You want to be in the middle, but you really don't want to be in that lab range either. You actually want to be in the functional range. This is the optimal range. If you're not here, then your lab tests are going to show normal even when they're not. So let's go right back. I'm going to pull up. I apologize. I'm going back and forth, guys, but this is worth it, okay? All right, let's come back to here. Let's get rid of this. So this is your thyroid range. LabCorp says 0.3 to 4.5. This is TSH, okay? So anywhere in this range, you're gonna be within the lab range. You know, you guys can let me know if that's what you experience. I'm sure it is. We see this all day, every day. Here's the thing. In 2003, there was a guideline that was published in the Endocrine Society that said, no, wait, 0.3 on the low end, all the way up, but wait, let's stop at 3.14. That was the guideline. So much narrower range. They said this is the range we should be using. How long ago was that? 16 years ago. So if you go to your endocrinologist and you are here, 4.1, then you're going to be considered within normal limits, even though his own organization says, wait, we have a problem. I take it a step further. So I've done a lot of research. I've been treating thyroid patients for, gosh, years and years and years, over 12 years at this point, and I practice almost 17 years. What we see is that this is too low. So I go for 0.7 on the low end, all the way up to 2.3. That's what I like. The reason I like that range, well, you could go as high as 2.5, but I think that's too high. But 95% of people without a thyroid problem have a TSH below 2.5. That's a goal. That's what we want to see. So this is where you want to be. It's that simple. If you're there, your thyroid TSH marker is healthy. But here's the key thing. I see patients there, but they have T4 at 0.6. That's low. They have free T3 at 2.3. That's low. They see abnormality. We see abnormalities in those markers. So we have to check everything. We have to fix everything in order to get your body on the right path. If we don't do that, you are not going to heal. All right. I hope that makes sense to you. I hope the fact that you realize that you need to be in this functional lab range is the key thing. That's the important part that we're looking for, okay? And of course, if you look at those examples with TSH, we touched on it. Glucose, the same example is there. Cholesterol, you have an example. Gosh, hemoglobin, every marker that we look at, you have this example. So we need to make sure that your tests are where they should be in the functional range in order to get you healthy. All right, so things that we look at in our office. We look at your thyroid accurately. We look at all 9 tests. There are 9 tests to your thyroid. You need all of them done. We look at other markers like your adrenal gland, cortisol levels, cortisone levels, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all of them, melatonin, dopamine, serotonin, brain chemicals. We look at your liver, your gallbladder, your kidney, your red and white blood cells, your blood sugar. We look at infection markers. You know, we look at markers. Gosh, there's so many different pieces of the puzzle that we look at. I'm going to share this with you. Don't get scared. All right. What you're looking at right here is something called methylation. Methylation is driven by your genetics. Now I'm going to tell you right here, that's inflammation. Right here, that's a huge part of liver function. We have issues throughout this entire system. If you don't have this working right, these working right, this working right, if you don't have these areas working right, you're going to have autoimmune disease. You're going to have thyroid problems. So we have to look at the whole picture. You know what's great? This is complex, but you don't have to learn it. That's what I do. That's why I'm here. And we use tests that are easy to get to give us the genetic or DNA information that we need to help identify what is and is not working. So the whole goal is to be able to get those markers that we need and say, hey, Let's go ahead and find what's wrong with you by looking at all the tests that actually matter. Once we do that, we can actually identify and fix your health. Get your body back on the right path, fix your thyroid. So that's what I do in my clinic. I fix chronic metabolic problems. That's our specialty. We practice a neurometabolic model of treating chronic health conditions. For some of our patients, it's functional medicine. What that looks like, running the right labs, using nutrition, diet, supplementation to help heal your body naturally. Many patients we see in our clinic, and we use traditional Chinese medicine as well. For other patients, it's all done through our virtual distance care. So you can be anywhere in the world and I can see you and I can have a consult with you just like this face to face. I can show you your labs. We can get them done where you are, and we can treat you and heal you without you ever step into the clinic directly. Additionally, if you have the ability to come into the clinic, we have the ability to do a lot more at times, but patients work on both sides of it, and it's important. So, we wait until there's tissue destruction. We say, hey, so much damage, right? And then squash the immune system. That's a medical model. Let's kill your thyroid. Let's give you medication to kill your thyroid and then give you medication for the rest of your life. It's symptom management. It doesn't address the underlying metabolic causes. With the thyroid, Synthroid armor, that's what it looks like. You chase TSH levels up and down instead of fixing the cause of your problem. You prescribe antidepressants. You give acid reflux medication. It's doing all these pieces of the puzzle. That's not the way we want to treat. SSRIs, anxiety meds, here's your antidepressant. That's not how we want to treat. We want to heal your body. That means a functional medicine approach. GMO foods, clean living, food sensitivities, infections, blood sugar, adrenals, thyroid, sex hormone deficiencies, all play a role. Impaired methylation issues often involve B12 and folic acid, liver gallbladder problems, vitamin deficiencies like vitamin D. All of these pieces of the puzzle all play a role in your body. The key thing is to modulate your immune system, to make dietary modification, lifestyle changes. We have supplements that we may use based on your lab findings specific to your body's needs. So remember that TH1, that TH2, that's your immune system. Your immune system may be shifted here. If it's shifting one direction, then what's happening is if you take a supplement that pushes that direction, it's going to make you worse. We don't want to do that. We don't want to make you worse. We want to heal your body. Many patients come in with bags of supplements. You're already doing stuff that may be hurting you. So we want to help correct that. We want to get away from that. Bottom line, I want to look at the whole person, not just the condition itself. And that's the goal that I'm going to have with you. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. We're trying to say, hey, let's get you fixed. Let's get your body on the right path. Let's do everything that we need to in order to actually turn your life around. Well, I don't know what that looks like to you, but to me, it looks like a much better approach than what most of our patients are doing on their own. And it looks like we have the ability to say, hey, let's actually come back and reinvent your life. Let's come back and actually make a difference with you. So if you like what you heard, I can sit here all day. I can talk to you guys. I can answer questions. But I really want you to understand the big picture. You got to call my office. We need to talk. We need to have a conversation. You can make an appointment with my office, a new patient appointment if you want. You can also call and we can have a quick 10-minute conversation and chat about what we found and what we may have going on and make sure this is the right place for you. I always do complimentary 10-minute consults to make sure that we can help you. But the goal is for us to give you a better, different approach towards your health. I do an examination in my office in a full case review. Normally it's $179 to cover the new patient process. Because you're on this webinar, we do discount it. We have some ads on Facebook that we're running as part of this right now. So it's $99. It gives you our new patient examination. It's actually the first 2 visits, 2 hours of time with me. That can be in my clinic or that can be over the phone. The whole goal is for me to go through my new patient process and be able to help figure out what you need to fix you. If you've had lab work done before, I want it. I want to see it. Let me see what you've had done. If you have never been to a doctor and you think you have a thyroid problem, then we start from scratch. But let's assess and see what's been going on, and let's find a better path for you. If you want to schedule an appointment, the best way that you can schedule an appointment right now would be to go to my website, drakibagreen.com, and click on the Contact Us or Schedule Appointment option. You'll see right on the homepage, schedule your appointment. It'll be right in front of you. You fill out the form, There's some paperwork that you'll download and go through on our portal. And don't worry about the buy now. We've upgraded that, so you don't need to worry about saving anything off of it. But just go in, you request an appointment. My staff will be with you usually by the next day. It's in the evening, they're gone for the night. But tomorrow they'll be in touch with you, or within a day, they'll reach out, they'll schedule your appointment, get you set up on our portal so we can get your records, we can see what you've had done. And the whole goal is going to be to help correct your health and get you back on the right path. So I thank you for watching tonight. I look forward to meeting with each of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Leave me comments on Facebook. I'm going to post the video we posted in a few minutes. It'll be tied to the top. You'll be able to watch it again. And we'll also link it back to the event. I hope you like this format. If I can do things better or change the format. If you want me to host a live seminar, I would be more than happy to. We used to do them in our clinic, and just the traffic got so bad, and we reached from really several hours away with our patient base as more of a regional clinic, that I don't do them as often that way. But if we have the interest, I'd be more than happy to. I thank you very much for watching, and I wish you better health and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.